online marketplace and website scams. We're in the digital era now, and it's more important than ever that we stay aware and at the forefront of making sure we're prepared for situations that involve online scamming. That's what we're talking about in today's episode on Steel Pushers. Thank you guys all for joining us again for another episode. We've got some great guests in today. Today I've got Michael Barritt, of course, as well, from Education and Information Officer for the Northern Territory Consumer Affairs. Thank you very much for joining us, Michael. I'm keen to hear what you've got to say.
Thank you.
Awesome. I've also got Luke Bruce, Director and Co-Founder of Machines for You. Thank you for giving us your insights today, Luke. And
no worries.
Shivam, also a massive member of the dev team. He's the brains behind the brawn that is Machines for You, our resident double headset statistics expert. You've probably all seen him in the Daily Orange now as well, feeding you guys valuable information that we're pumping out of the way we're performing at Machines for You. So being a digital marketplace ourselves, we've seen this firsthand for years. It's not something that's new. You guys have all seen these marketplace scams. We've all seen them pop up, but they're in the news again at the moment, obviously with everyone being so digitally focused. So we thought it a very, very prevalent topic at the moment, especially with what's going on using the Kubota brand and how it's affected farmers buying equipment and just anyone out there buying capital equipment across Australia. So really the first thing I'd like to get out there to all of the Steel Pushers viewing, Michael, what are the most common marketplace scams that you're seeing in the capital equipment sector especially?
Well, we've seen a big host of recent websites that have been created, and one of our callers called in and sort of said, well, there's a business based in Darwin and it seems to be selling all this equipment, so I've got a strange feeling about it. So we investigated the address, and the address was just an empty block. So we started getting a bit suspicious, of course. And then we started finding a whole host of different websites. So these are selling motorhomes, farm machinery. So there's a whole host of them. We've sort of found about 24 at this stage. And these are really super professional looking websites. So you're not going to see the normal bad English, dodgy looking images, dodgy logos. These are slick productions that have been created and then replicated, so using different business names. So it's a real big worry. People have lost a lot of money already, about over $400,000. But
a huge amount of money.
It's extraordinary, and people have been pretty devastated. Like, they've directly deposited, $35,000 into an account, hoping that a second-hand tractor will arrive on their farm. And you can imagine what that impact is for a family farmer.
So knowing it's very easy for anyone really out there that's not completely aware of what's going on to be scammed, it's very easy to lose a lot of money very quickly. Luke, what are some of the most common attributes that you can spot for, say, a scam website or even a scam listing on a marketplace?
Yeah, well, we've been in an arms race with scammers since we kicked off in 2007, and they have got a lot more sophisticated. And you're right, it's getting to the level of where they're creating whole fictitious businesses. But there's a few things that you can spot straight off. First of all, they hardly ever have an email address which is at a registered Australian company. So they hardly ever got a .com.au email address unless they've stolen one. They also love to target the big brands because they know that brings numbers in. They're playing a numbers game. So they've targeted Kubota, they've targeted John Deere, they've targeted Kobelco. So they choose a big brand, and they also choose the common equipment categories. So you're hardly ever going to see a scam for a combine harvester, but you'll see tractor scams every day of the week. Because again, it's a numbers game. So they are playing on those big areas of the industries. And they also love to prey on people that actually are nice guys and have a large level of trust. And that's why they target areas like ag and areas like construction, because they know the people that are in these industries, they're genuine, trusting people, and they take advantage of this.
And that was going to be my next question. Actually, you sort of led into it, and I wanted to ask, Shivam, what are the most common industries you're seeing these scams develop in, and is it generally because, as Luke just said, is because that's where they can find easy trust building?
Yeah, look, Lyndon, this comes down to enough volume being available. So naturally, in the industrial space, the construction and ag lead by far any other industry. The other one is where you actually anticipate your buyers not to walk in to your showroom to buy these things. See, unlike a car where you usually would want a test drive for a second-hand car, but when it comes to industrial equipment, when you have enough reports and when you have all the service history and everything, quite often people in the rural sector will trust it, and they are used to purchasing these things. So this is why agriculture and construction is by far the most leading industries for these scammers to target.
Okay. And Michael, so knowing this, now when we know the industries that are commonly targeted, and when we know the type of, or at least have some idea of the type of tactics used and things we can spot, where can consumers go, Michael, in order to check whether a website's previously been reported as a scam or is being used for scams?
Probably the best way is to look at the ABN number that they're claiming to have, and then just go to ABN lookup on Google and look up that ABN number and just see whether it's linked to that business. Now, another thing to do is sometimes just put the business name into Google and put the word scam next to it and see whether it is actually a reported scam, because most of the time you come across one of these websites, you're not the first person to do so, so it's already been documented. But be aware, you might actually be the first one to discover it. But just give the Consumer Affairs Agency in your state or a fair trading organisation in your state a call. It's also really important to be aware of that little niggling voice in the back of your head, like, I'm not really sure about this. If you've got that feeling, probably not really a good idea to proceed with any payment until you talk to us or talk to one of our sister organisations interstate.
The old go with your gut, so to speak. And Michael, though, you've actually touched on it very quickly as well. If all business details, do look legit, if seems to be a legitimate ABN number, if the website, as you said, is extremely professional and it does look fantastic, what are some other precautions you can take to ensure that the seller is real?
The big one is not directly deposit a whole heap of money into a business bank account. So ask them if you can use your credit card, because you can do claim back on your credit card if there's some disagreement about payment. That means you go into your bank and say, hey, this didn't proceed as I thought it would. And also, if a business really isn't interested in getting your credit card details, you've got to be highly suspicious. It's like, well, why not? What does that indicate? They also use fraudulent images as well on their website. So if you want to be a little bit of an investigator, you can go in with your snipping tool. That's just a little tool to take an image out of a website and then do a reverse image search using Google.
Okay.
It's a little bit technical, but if you look it up, you'll learn how to do it. And you'll find that the images that they use, they're pretty lazy. They're not going to go out and take a whole heap of images themselves. They've just stolen it all across the internet in other locations. So you've got to be really dubious if they're using images from, other sort of associated proper websites that sell machinery. Their staff images will often be, ironically, security staff that work for different security organisations across the world. So I'm guessing these scammers are having a little bit of a shot at internet security as well by using the images of professionals that work in security.
Okay. So Luke, with all this knowledge, and all this ammunition that we've got now, us trying to prepare ourselves, what to spot, what to look for, and where we can go to just double check a few things, what are some precautions you can take when buying online, especially through a marketplace? What are some things you've seen users do, or even some things you've done to really make sure that you're buying from the right source and you're doing it the right way in order to protect yourself?
Well, healthy suspicion is the one tool that's going to help you protect yourself online. So you've got to realize when you're in a danger situation. Whenever you've got cash and you're a cash buyer, you're ripe to being scammed, because they know that you've got that cash sitting in your bank account. They've just got to convince you somehow to transfer it to theirs, and then they've got you. So if you're a cash buyer for something in the ag or construction industry, you've got to double and triple check that that equipment is actually there, and you've really got to know who's selling it. Video, like we're doing now, is actually one of the powerful tools that you can use, because you can be guaranteed this scammer, if you FaceTime him or if you call him on Skype, he can't take you out and walk you around the tractor. And if he's unwilling to do that, he's probably unwilling to sell to you if he is a genuine seller. And if he can't do that, then he's probably definitely a scammer. So you've got to use the tools against them, because this is an arms race between scammers and the digital tools that are out there. You know, there's been scammers in classified ads even when they're in the back of magazines. There's always going to be grifters, and you've got to protect yourself when you're online. So get the guy to video call you or video call him and ask for a walk around of the tractor. It's one of the easiest ways to catch them out.
Okay. And Shivam, for all our Steel Pushers viewers out there, what are some big red flags they can actually look for?
Look, the biggest dead giveaway is these ads try to create a scarcity and an amazing offer. So price point. If you see a listing at 40%, 50% below the market rate, that should be your number one scam flag.
The old, it's too good to be true.
Is it too good to be true? Right. And that's what creates this whole urgency around it as well. The whole objective of this scammer is to create such a lucrative offer and then come up on that either phone or an email with the scarcity approach, which is you got to put the deposit down or else someone else will take it. That's the common approach when it comes to selling scams. And if at all the things do check out, then it's purely from a technical point of view. You've got to verify separately with that business. So locate up their public listing, find their publicly displayed phone numbers, which is showing up on reputable places, and call up on that 1300 number and confirm it separately that they are who they are and they speak.
Okay.
Because quite often, the person you're talking to, the email address you're dealing with, or the phone number even you're dealing with might not be the one which is actually legitimate tied into that business name. That is provided you have done the checks like Michael said against the business name and the scam. If it all turns out to be all right, it's a business dealing in New South Wales and you are based in rural Western Australia and you're thinking that it will get shipped over. Still confirm it from a separate route, the phone number and the bank details before doing the transfer.
That's excellent advice. Thank you, Shivam. So, guys, we're going to go to a quick break. We'll be back shortly. Stick with us. We'll have some more valuable information for you after this short break. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again shortly.
For me, everything I do, I've got to try and achieve this level, and I really felt like I'm at this level now.
The whole point of this for me was to unlock more potential. How do you go to the next level again, and how do you keep stepping up, even just incrementally from here on in?
I want to see what I'm capable of.
You know, I'm in business. I felt like I was kind of stuck in a bit of a rut, and wanted to get to the next level.
So I felt in areas of my life I wasn't showing up, and I wanted somebody to hold me accountable to that.
I've got big ambitions on what I want to achieve, and if I can't be a good leader, it won't happen.
No idea really what we're in for, and I expect it to be challenging. I expect it to be tough. But if we don't have that, then we're not going to move forward.
There's a greater level, and then again 6 months later, there's a greater level. Your awareness just continually expand to grow. Don't hold back.
That machine. You know the one. That bit of equipment you needed for a job that paid off months ago is still in your yard. Maybe it's undercover. Maybe it's out in the weather. Either way, that machine's worth less and less every week that passes. But what if we could connect you with nearly 100,000 genuine machinery buyers searching for capital equipment like yours, but are leaving because they're not finding what they're looking for? We're talking about business owners, project managers and operators just like you, urgently looking to service their next job. And they're looking on a marketplace that only sells machinery. It's time to sell. It's time to turn steel into cash. Machines for you. Buy better. Sell faster.
Welcome back, Steel Pushers. Thank you for tuning in. Remember as well, feel free to leave a comment. Let us know if you guys have experienced any scams out there in the capital equipment game or just in general. Let us know what your experiences have been. It'd be great to share that between everyone else that's watching as well. So we've covered a lot, gentlemen, in relation to the consumer side of things. What you should be aware of when spending money, what red flags and things like that to look out for. From a business perspective, is where I really want to shift the conversation in the coming few minutes. But firstly, I think it's a really prevalent thing to touch on very quickly, is before transferring funds. So what are the main things anyone should check for before transferring any funds or making any kind of purchase online, Michael, sorry?
There's a whole host of things to check. It's if you've got any doubt, do not proceed. So if you've got any doubt, give us a call or the agency in your state and just verify. But if they're asking for a direct deposit of the full amount, then you've got to be highly suspicious and I wouldn't proceed, basically, if it was my money. So just be really aware of that. You can check ScamWatch. So ScamWatch is run by ACCC. They do scam alerts all the time on their website, just recent scams that they've discovered. You can also get on Facebook as well. There's quite a few different Facebook communities of scam watchers in Australia, and that can give you sort of a heads up about current scams that are running right across the internet and particularly affecting Australians. Excellent.
So moving on to the business side of things, so it's probably very poignant that I ask yourself, Luke, as a business, how can you safeguard, or how can any business safeguard their sites from being used as scam targets? Is there anything a business can do?
Well, it's very hard to stop someone out there impersonating your business. Technically, it's easy to copy a site and it's easy to copy a logo. It's as simple as cut and paste. And anyone with basic website skills can pretty much rip off your company logo and everything like that. It's happened to a lot of companies and even some major companies across Australia. So as far as protecting your business, you've just got to be onto it and be aware. If there is a single complaint that comes in, you've got to be aware that it might be the tip of the iceberg if someone's copied your business or has started invoicing your customers. So you've got to keep a lid on your data security. There was even a major auction house which was hacked recently in Australia. So data security is the number one, because if they can get hold of your customers and they can send them false invoices, you're going to end up in a very sticky situation with a lot of unhappy customers. So take data security seriously. Like, most people leave it up to chance. You've really got to look at your internal systems and go, hang on, what would happen if someone that's not in my company got into these systems? What could they take out of them?
Yep. And Shivam, even because we all know that in that space, even if you do everything within your power, everything at your disposal to protect your business's digital assets as much as humanly possible, there's always somebody that can get through. And should that happen, what could a business do, or what should a business do if they think their details or their information is being used falsely or as part of a scam?
Well, I think the number one thing you got to do is get hold of authorities onto it. The first thing to do is inform ScamWatch, inform people like Michael and your local state representatives and all, and let them know that someone is impersonating your business. Second thing you got to do is you got to proactively communicate with your customers directly from different channels. If the scammer has been impersonating your emails and coming in from whatever address, but if the signature says your business name, you've got to approach it from different channels and get hold of your customers and make them aware of it. Because every person who is left out and not been aware of has a potential to fall into that trap. And it comes down to eventually your business reputation. People will appreciate you as a business being on the front foot of it, rather than investigating it later and finding out that that transaction wasn't to your business, it was to actually someone else.
Okay. And Michael, is there anyone specific that business owners should contact, or is it pretty much the same whether consumer or a business owner when it comes to if they're of that impression that they are getting scammed or being used for scams?
Yeah, so all the consumer affairs organisations across Australia deal with businesses just as much as they deal with individual people that are being scammed. If it's a high-level scam, it's probably good to ring up the Australian Cyber Centre and have a chat to them. You can report scams through them, and they're particularly interested in the bigger business-focused scams because they need to be aware of it. There is things on the back end that they can do about it. It's all about awareness and then education, trying to get that word out about a currently running scam. But there's lots of things that they can do nationally, but also internationally, of course, as well, with other police agencies and other cyber agencies across the world. Because a lot of these scammers aren't obviously located in Australia. They can be located anywhere in the world, basically.
And that was actually my next question to yourself, Michael, is if you seem to at least have gotten enough information that you believe the scam is from overseas, or if your business operates overseas, or if you as a buyer are buying from overseas, are the organisations that you contact to get things sorted any different from whether or not it's domestic?
How do you mean by that? Sorry.
So, of course, if you're a buyer or a seller trading internationally and you're suspect or at least suspicious of scam activity, is the process or the organisations that you would contact to discuss whether or not it's a scam or what you should do any different from that if it was a domestic issue?
Not really. Your first point of call is going to be Australian authorities. And then depending on which country you're dealing with, of course, there are countries that are, of course, got a whole lot of laws in place, and there's lots more surety doing businesses with those countries. If you're doing business in, other certain countries that have a reputation for hosting, big scam groups, then you have to be highly, you have to really verify everything you do in those countries, because of course the trust level has to be a lot lower.
Okay. So Luke, definitely one for yourself. Do marketplaces, obviously we are one, do marketplaces around the country take specific precautions to prevent as much as they can against scammers, obviously to give all our steel pushers out there a bit of peace of mind?
Yeah, I mean, every marketplace worth its salt in Australia spends a lot of time and resources trying to reduce scams. We've been in an arms race with scammers since we launched in 2007. I like to think we're winning, but you can't rest on your laurels. They're continually changing and evolving, and they are so much better than they used to be. Like, we used to get I think we first had the Kibelco tractor scam placed on our site in 2009 or 2010. We picked it up straight away, but back then they were targeting, Sydney postcode 2000. Very bad language on the ads. You could easily pick it out as something's not right. Whereas now they actually copy original adverts from somewhere in the UK or even interstate, and they completely replicate those ads with description and everything. And the giveaways is usually the price, but even then, quite often they list with a full price and they'll reduce it later once the advert's been reviewed. So we have manual review systems, we've got automatic review systems, and just about every classified marketplace has something like this. The dangers out there currently are things like social media platforms, which have no policing on their promoted sponsored listings. You'll see if you are in the capital equipment market, every time you visit Facebook or something, quite often there's a scam ad coming up, and they're targeting things like, again, the Cabelco tractor. I've seen that come up so many times, the sponsored listing on my social media, simply because I'm all over, the industrial marketplaces, so I'm tagged with all these different things. And these companies are actually receiving sponsored money to promote these scams, and they do the best they can to take them down, but really it's a massive loophole that gives those scammers the ability to set up a website, generate massive traffic for a few days until they get shut down, and then scam those people. So
it's brilliant to know, and I'm sure all the steel pushers out there, it's always good to know that there's so many measures in place already from marketplaces like Machines for You that are protecting the seller and the buyer. From a buyer's perspective, Shivam, I suppose it's a common old adage, or a common question. It's a pretty simple one. I know I'm a bit shocking for it, but how often should a user change their password? Something simple as a precaution.
Yeah, look, your passwords, and that's a basic online hygiene these days, they call it. If you're using the same thing across 6 platforms, that's not a great idea. If your banking password is the same as your marketplace platform's password as your email, that's a risk in itself. So, yep, follow all the basic precautions, stick to separate passwords and things, and where possible, use login as some other service. So if you can leverage on Google login or your Facebook login or something to log in into another service, use that. So pretty basic stuff in this day and age.
Yeah.
Can I add one more thing to that?
Yep.
I'd like to ask anyone watching this video to please stop sharing those things on social media where you post your first school and the name of your first pet and all those silly little surveys, because they're created by people that are trying to guess your password. And it is the baby boomers and the Gen Xers that are the most guilty of sharing a lot of those things, and they don't realize what they're doing with their personal information.
Exactly right. I've seen those quite a bit come up, and it's funny when I see friends doing it. The first message I'll send to them is, please stop doing that. And lastly, Michael, just some quick tips for staying safe online in the buying and selling market.
Well, I think the big one is, trust but verify. So you can get some good deals online, and shopping online, we all do it. You can get a good deal, but if something that, like was mentioned before, if you start seeing price down 50% off, you've got to be highly suspicious. It's also really good before you go online with any device to have security software installed and updated. It seems a bit basic to say that nowadays, but a lot of people just, they allow their security software to expire and they think, I won't bother. The idea of getting online and purchasing without any security software is pretty scary nowadays. Just seeing what's out there, but I think that one of the big things is you do get a sense that something's not right when you're purchasing, and if you have that feeling, really act on it. Just step back and have a think. Sometimes it's actually just a good idea to buy locally in a shop that exists, so that if there's a problem with the product, you can actually come back and of course you're buying local as well. So you're investing in the community, so that's always an option.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Great tips there from Michael. Look, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us for today's Steel Pushers episode. So look, some incredible information for everyone out there, whether it's buying or selling online. I love that term, practice digital hygiene. Thank you for that one, Shivam. Make sure that you guys get out there and stay safe online, but remember there are a lot of things in place to make sure that you guys are out there and safe when shopping and selling online as well. Remember, we're here to help you buy better and sell faster. Remember to join us next time on Steel Pushers, guys. It's been a great episode. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Luke. And thank you, Shivam, for joining us. And we'll see you next time.